backs off of it, stop it, slow it down. And using what you got, they had these things called gammon bombs that were basically like a quart can, and it had filled with explosive. They didn't have C4, they had C2, composition 2, and that was their plastic explosive. They had these, look like a sock with a fuse on it. That's a gammon. Hawkins mine, or like a little can. So you had, that's what you had. Grenades, that's all they had, but they did a great job of beating back the German attacks, particularly over here in that route. So a lot of vehicles, every time they're hit, they have to push the wreckers off the road and keep on going, and link up, which they finally do. On the, I think it's the 19th, they get, I think it's around late 18th or early 19th of September, they get to Grosse and actually go up. Just because you went through there, the Germans are still, they can still, you get a squad and you can cut that whole route at any given point. And you can hold it, for a couple hours, you slowed everything down. You force the infantry to dismount and then deploy and then aggress against you, and then you run away, and then they all have to get back on. It just eats up time. So the 4-day from here to there is really, really unrealistic, as we find out. Yeah, so it's...
So I have a question on that.
About the 101st?
The goal is you own Antwerp already, correct? Or you're trying to capture Antwerp?
Well, Antwerp that's a separate thing.
Okay. So this was to open up so that they could bring ships through to Antwerp?
Well, no. What you want to do, that's Antwerp is a separate. That's over further. Antwerp is way over here in the west.
Okay.
And the British are fighting that way. Actually, Canadians are fighting that way. This is a separate operation, not to be confused with Antwerp. The whole idea is to be able to get up this way here, cross, get to Arnhem, and then you cross the Rhine. Ultimately, what we want to do is cross the Rhine, and without having to go through Germany, because it's a long distance from the border, the German frontier, to the Rhine. You have to go through the Ruhr, a lot of other stuff. So if you go this way, cross the Rhine, and then head east, and from that point all the way across northern Germany is flat. Perfect for our army. Move fast. I think if you put the patent up there, we could do it a lot better.
I have a lost sight of.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up. Because I said from the beginning, this is pretty complicated. I'm just trying to work through everything here.
I just lost sight of it, so thank you
Okay,
for bringing me back.
no problem at all. Thanks for asking. So, they're trying to get up to Arnhem and then cross the Rhine over there and then go across to northern Germany. And so it doesn't happen. So it's I'm going back again. Okay, 82nd. I kind of talked about this already. Gravel Bridge is right over here, but this is the bridge over the Moswell Canal. This one here and that one over here. This one here is blown. So they crossed over here. We used the Bailey Bridge they repaired. That was blown also, but they repaired it. And they're able to go directly into Nijmegen. Down over here, they're able to go across. And this route here will take you directly into Grosse Pointe, which is right here. So this is the high ground. This is at Grosse Pointe Heights, the highest part. And so Germany is right here. And so the Germans from the Reichswald are coming out and attacking the 82nd here. So they have to have better part, almost half of the division is over here defending this area. And the other half, now that the British have Grava, they're able to move the 504 up And one battalion of the 504 that had not been used is 3rd. 1st Battalion was over here trying to get these bridges. 2nd was taking the bridge. And the 3rd was just up over here in reserve, holding off this area here to the ASL, no action. Well, that's the most intact battalion. So on the 20th, they get tasked with crossing the, right over here, crossing the Wall River with those boats that as soon as they show up, which they have to keep delaying the operation. They're going to do it at night, but it, you know, no boats, the way it works. So they program everything. So 2nd Battalion of 505 is attacking this bridge and over here. This is the highway bridge, this is the railway bridge. So they're attacking from the south, and then the American paratroopers, the 3rd of the 504, they cross here and then go that way. First, as the boats, as soon as they drop people off, they go back and pick up some more. And they keep taking them back and forth. The engineers are paddling the boats back and forth. And then after they take the 3rd over, then they start taking the 1st Battalion over. 2nd Battalion is there to provide mortar fires, heavy weapons support, machine guns and mortars to support the whole thing. So that is just a really remarkable story in itself. And the 3rd Battalion received a Presidential Unit Citation for that. The Presidential Unit Citation is a designated for, if a unit really did something over the top, it's worthy of recognition. So over there on this side of the uniform is a blue ribbon with a gold frame on it. And then if you got a second one, there's an old big cluster on it. The 101st, they got, as a division, they got 2 of those. One for Normandy and one for Bastogne during the Battle of Bulge. The very, very first Presidential Citation was given to the 3rd of the 504 for the fighting in Anzio in January to March 1943. I'm probably giving you too much information here, but just some great stuff. So, and so once they capture this, and the British can cross over, and it goes all the way up, and halfway between Nijmegen and Arnhem is a town called Elst, E-L-S-T, and that's as far as they go. The Germans just cut it off, and it's impossible to make it any further. And just to reiterate a lot of what I said about here, you had the 3 routes, 1, 2, and 3. And the drop zones, landing zones from here to here is 8 miles. So the radios don't work. You can't get your whole division there. It's the element of surprise is gone. The Germans are now reacting to things, the situation, so they've got a good understanding of the British plan, or actually the old Allied plan. So they can react now with the assets that are there already that Montgomery ignored. These 2 SS, the 9th and 10th SS, are really good units. They're good, high-quality soldiers, and they're really making a mess of it. Sir?
So why then were more of the bridges not blown by the Germans? Was it just a timing thing or a strategy?
A lot of it is, the whole effort was supposed to be a surprise. September 17th, boom, everything takes place. They seize these bridges. But even with that, several of these are blown. Why Nijmegen? Well, they didn't. The Germans wanted to keep Nijmegen Bridge because that allowed them to move troops back and forth between Arnhem and Nijmegen. So they didn't blow it, they just wanted to hold it. And eventually that's their downfall. If they had blown that bridge, game over. It would have failed at that point. You can't, with Germans even being on the opposite side, you can't put a Bailey Bridge across that under fire. It just won't work. So that would have been it. But it didn't. you can go to Arnhem today and see a bridge right here, but it's not the original Arnhem Bridge. It looks just like it. But that bridge there was destroyed in December of 1944 because the British medium bombers destroyed it because it was the Germans were using it to move troops through. And so they figured, we don't own it, so no one's going to own it. And just destroy it. So the bridge over there looks just like it in the movie. Thing about the movie, according to this Ryan movies, Longest Day and Bridge Too Far, they're actually filmed on the real locations. So they filmed this there, and they didn't have computer-generated graphics like they did in Band of Brothers. And that's a lot of that is all computer generated. And so everything, they had a cast of thousands, and literally the British jump scene in there. I talked to a guy he was in 10 para, which is a reserve component parachute unit, and he never jumped out of a C-47 until that day. So he did his jump there. There's a gentleman I was hoping would be here. He's British, and he worked on the production of that movie. He lives in Birmingham, West Bloomfield. I talked. Sir?
Oh, he's the other.
Okay.
No, I don't.
No, okay.
Well,
Okay.
I'm concerned, in the movie it showed the police brigade, how it drowned and some had drowned in the Rhine River, and I thought they must have considered a lot to how they drowned the police.
Well, half the Polish, actually a good friend of mine, Stanislaw Nusicki, was a Polish paratrooper, and he worked for Ford Motor Car.
Wow.
So we were pretty good friends. I still have a lot of stuff with him. And he fought in September '39 against the Germans and the Russians. And when he was an artilleryman, then he went to North Africa, and then he went to France to fight with the French. But he said they were just giving up, and he says, I don't want no part of that. So he made his way to England, and that's where he became a paratrooper, went through the jump training. And he landed in Arnhem. He was an artilleryman on those anti-tank guns, and he landed with the British over here as a Polish in a glider. And his battery had six 6-pounder anti-tank guns, and that basically is like a company, so you have roughly about 100 guys in a battery, and only 2 left. Stanislaw, Stash, as they call him, and another guy. The other guy eventually committed suicide. So all the guns were wiped out. When the guns ran out of ammunition or disabled, they took the breech blocks out, so they couldn't be used. And one of them, he said, was badly damaged, and so they would line up through the barrel. He had no optics on it, so they looked through the barrel at the target, put a round in there, and he hit it with a hammer, set it off. And finally, they were able to. He crossed the river south on the 25th when I got back to.
Didn't some paratroopers drive down into the river, or was that?
No. What happened there is right over here. There's a town called Driel, D-R-I-E-L, and just to the east of that was the Polish drop zone. So half of the Polish parachute brigade landed there. I don't know what let's see. Part of the 3rd Battalion, but I think the 2nd and the 3rd landed over here. And they landed, and the Germans were shooting at them as they're coming down. But it's not easy to hit someone in a parachute coming down. Because you're a moving target. It's just hard. It's just, I don't want to get people shoot at me when I'm coming down either, but just the same. It isn't that easy. They sustained altogether. The Polish parachute brigades in this area sustained over 500 casualties, and about 200 of them managed to cross over and reinforce the British here. And because they were the fresher of the troops, Operation Berlin, which was the withdrawal of supposed to be right over here. So right about over here was the perimeter, a horseshoe, inverted horseshoe, and then they started collapsing. They had some guys that were either badly wounded or volunteered to stay behind, and they gave the impression that the line was still being held, and the guys were able to cross over and come into Allied lines over here. As I said, only 1,800 out of 10,000 made it back. The division was, for all intent and purposes, destroyed. It was never combat effective again for the rest of the war. They were done.
Well, that's big helps.
Yeah.
British, I mean, but Russians and the Germans.
Well, the Polish Parachute Brigade, they had wishes of going to Warsaw and fighting for their country, but they never got a chance to do that. Stash, although he was a Polish soldier, fought in 39, 40 against the Germans. He hated Germans. He just hated Germans. Sometimes you see these reenactors, you know, and they wear German uniforms. Oh, he lit into them. Yeah,
The Ukrainians did that too for a while.
yeah, but then Stash made it all the way through, and he was quite a, we were really good friends. And he retired from force, went down to Naples, Florida, and he died, and so his ashes are down there. But great guy. He was about this tall. Yeah, so. But anyway, as they collapsed, here's the perimeter right here. And they collapsed that and brought everyone back across the. That happened on the 25th, the morning of the 25th. I can say that, you know, for all intent and purposes, all the bridges were captured as the link up. So Market worked, but Garden did. A 30 Corps, these guys here, they started here. There was 2 corps on either side, and 30 Corps would charge up here. And that was the game plan. And it just didn't work. They were slow. They weren't as aggressive as they needed to be.
So where's Elst? It's pretty far north. They almost made it.
Elst is 8 miles from our.
And that was, and Arnhem was the goal.
Yep. And by then the guys that had 2nd Para Battalion that had the north side were gone. They couldn't hold out any longer. They had no radio contact, so they just fought. At one point they were throwing rocks at the Germans. Sir?
What kind of aircraft did they have?
That's another problem, weather. There's no way of identifying where you were. They used recognition panels and everything else, but the situation was very fluid. They were getting strafed by our own people. So, matter of fact,
The 30 Corps going up didn't have air cover going.
they had some air cover over here, but it wasn't, because of the clouds were low to the ground pretty much most of the time. That prohibited them from the aircraft coming down. So they didn't have what they needed. Yeah, good point. There's no air support. Next to nothing. So, on the first day there was some air support, you know, because you had aircraft like British Typhoons that had guns and rockets, and you know, an aircraft like P-47 Thunderbolts were carried. You had 850s and a 500-pound bomb, things of that nature. And you can do a lot of mischief with that. Mustangs, you know, we had 650s, things like that. So it was just, after that first day, it was marginal. The bridge too far. This is a blow-up of that strategic area there. This is Nijmegen, this is the railway bridge, the highway bridge, and right over here is the power station where they launched, took over. 1st Battalion went to Osterhout. There was one soldier, a private by the name of John Tall from Cleveland. There was German assault guns coming this way, and these guys obviously do not have heavy weapons. So he happened to have a bazooka. He went out in the open on his cell, and he engaged these targets, and he stopped this armored assault single-handedly. And he was killed by a mortar round. They bracketed him with mortar, and killed by a fragment. But he received later on posthumously the Medal of Honor for what he did right there. He just went up, exposed everything by himself, and just engaged this armored. There was 4 or 5 tanks and about another same number of half tracks. And he engaged them all by himself. But the 3rd Battalion comes across there at Len, and they push on this area here and secure the bridges here. So they got the bridges, they're pushing up this way here, and this dotted line here is this is all German. This is the bad guys have the side over here, and then the British were able to move up into this area over here. Later on, I put the campaign as September 17th to the 25th. The first, what's left of the 1st Airborne Division is withdrawn on the 25th, and they're done. But the 82nd, 101st are still fighting, and holding this area here until mid-November. So they fight all through September, all through October, and into November. So effectively about more than 2 months. This area over here, eventually, since the lower area, Eindhoven, the 101st area is down here, that's secured already. So they take those guys and they give them a free truck ride and they bring them up over here. So the 101st is fighting up in this area over here. That the series Band of Brothers, you know, the Easy Company 506. A lot of that is over here. There's an area up right about over here. There's I take people on where a lot of that stuff happened. And near Goldberg, there's a place called Schundelag. And that's a picture, you ever see that picture of, I don't know, if you've seen it, Dick Winters, and he's by a farm, and there's an arch. Okay. Wow. Well, if he did, that's great. But it's right there. I know where it is. I remember I found it using Google Earth. And there's a lot of really cool places that makes that connection between 1944 and today. So it helps bridge that time. And then that's the awesome part of being there. Is reading is great, you know, but when you actually walk on the same ground and experience the same stuff, to me, that's where it all comes together.
What is 30 Corps?
30 Corps? Well, they just brought up to here, and then part of them deployed up to here, and that was it.
They didn't go east, they didn't go west?
No, they stayed there, and they continued operations with the British over here. Eventually, they did push on. They were in northern Germany by the time in May of 45. So we're talking about another 9 months. About another 9 months, 8-9 months in this area over here. So, yeah, Americans, we blew right, well, I don't want to say just all Americans in the war, but the British, they continued pushing on into Holland, liberating the rest of Holland. The Dutch, they look at May 1st as their big day. So that's liberation of Holland Day, May 1st. No more Germans in Holland. And I was in Eindhoven one time, and then the German team was playing the Dutch team. And they just don't forget. Soccer gear crazy anyway, but that particular day there was nuts. I told everyone, don't go to the soccer stadium. Go somewhere else. Go shopping in Eindhoven. Stay away from me. I'll buy you a beer.
I was told that there were 48 guys who were killed at the bridge. I don't know if it was in the crossing with the boats, but today there are 48 lights on the bridge.
Oh, yeah?
And they light each one up one at a time, and then once the 48th light is lit at night, then the town lights at 9 can come on. So to your point about the Dutch not forgetting, 75 years later, this is a nightly ritual.
It's a big thing. Yeah, right in this area over here, there was a bridge called the Overstraat. Overstraat means the crossing. So that's the name of the bridge that goes over there. And it's right where the boats paddle across the river. I remember going there I can see where they started to build the bridge. And it was like the last year you can go there and actually see the battlefield as it is. On the north shore is a monument these two big pillars up in front, and then in front had the names of every American paratroopers killed in that river crossing. So it's, yeah, great, great about it here. There's a little fort over there, Fort Lent, you know, they called it. It's not Lent there, it's right up over here. You can still go there. I talked to the guy. He says there's a lot of people going in his fort. He has a little fort with a moat around it. And the you know, ramp things down. And, but he doesn't like people going in and bothering him. So I brought some World War II veterans who fought there in the 504, and that was a different story. So we let them come in and see what's going on. Sir?
To that end, Steve, I mean, if for a layperson to go there, are there can you see things, are there placards around, or is it?
Oh, yeah.
There are.
You can see things. It's best, there's things you can go by yourself. Depends how much reading you do. I've been going there.
Tour it, I mean, but you know it.
Yeah.
You know where to go, you know what farm fields to look at. But for a
Yeah,
layperson, that doesn't have.
no,
the
it's
experience.
not like Gettysburg where they have monuments and stuff like that. You have to know what you're looking at. They have some good museums over there too, but, you know, museums are great if they help you and interpret it. There's a really good museum called the Liberation Museum in Grosse Pointe, which primarily 82nd. And there's one down, really good one, the Liberation Museum, and near Zon, the 101st. And there's up in Arnhem over there, near Osterby, is a museum there called the Airborne Museum. That's, you know, that was the Hartenstein. That was the first airborne headquarters was there. You can actually go there in the basement and see things. It's pretty cool. But you have to know where you're at. And the vets don't come back in. There's just a few of them, but not like they used to. But this whole area over here, this is called the island. And this was really heavily fought over. And you can get up over there, and the road is up on a dike. Literally, it's about from the ground this high. Because it flooded. And so the road that goes along the top over there, along by the Rhine. You can look over there and you can see the high ground just north of the Rhine over there. And yeah, it's starting to get built up a little bit with the river crossing over here, the bridge to Overstreck. It's kind of cool when it wasn't there, but I understand, you know, progress and everything else. But I got a chance to see it back there.
I mean, could I ask the group, I mean, does anyone know of any tours of that area where you can just go with a group, an expert that, you know, they have tours that go to Paris or Rome or anything.
The American Legion.
I do it. I'll take it.
The American Legion
But
VFW.
we won't go just to Holland, you go to Normandy and Battle of Bulge. And,
You do it on an organized basis or just?
yeah, the Detroit Historical Society is going next June.
I think every year, September 17th, they do a big conservation acting.
There or?
Well, the Dutch, remember September, all through the corridor, they call it.
Exactly.
This road, it goes over from the Belgian border to Arnhem. It's called Hell's Highway. And it's now literally a highway. It used to be a two-lane road. And it's called the corridor. And people just, yeah, they live for that. I mean, it's just, they do not forget. Do not forget.
So how long is the June tour? I mean, you guys go for a week? 2 weeks?
12 days. Yeah, you look rather good. I have a sign in them there, so just give your information and take one of my cards and I can help you. We're closing on this. Reasons for the failure, because I was handing around to a lot of this thing. British landing drop zones, it wasn't just the British drop zones that were that far away. The American ones at the 82nd were south of Nijmegen. You had to go through the city in order to get to the bridge there. But the British in particular are 8 miles from the objective. And for a guy walking, particularly they had the jeeps that were supposed to get there ahead of time. They were ambushed, that never happened. And the Allies had too few transport aircraft. Aircraft would be able to get the whole division there at once. that would have greatly enhanced their chances of success. But it took 3 days to get the 1st Division there, 1st British Airborne Division with their the Polish Parachute Brigade. That would have been the 3rd lift. The 82nd, they had all 3 of their parachute regiments and some artillery that came on the 17th, but it wasn't until the 18th that the 325 glider infantry came in, and they were very, very welcome. So there's assets that it took too long to get them there. Poor weather over England, there's a lot of fog. Matter of fact, the Polish were delayed almost 2 days because the fog was socked into the English airfields. And then air support we talked about. You brought that point out there. Hampered air reinforcement, resupply, and air support. Radio communications failed. You know what they did? They found out later on that the British radio, I'm just talking about the British right now, is that the frequencies they were not on the same frequency. Some of the guys would get on the radio and they're hearing a British and German radio news broadcast. It's not going to help you communicate. And they had, most of it's line of sight, so you can see them, you can talk to them, but you have a lot of forests and woods over there, and that's going to affect your communication. You don't have line of sight. So the antenna is only about the ground this high. The higher it is, the greater it's going to enhance your ability to communicate, your reception. You don't have that. Our radios were a lot different, better. You had SCR, Signal Corps Radio 536. The walkie-talkies, they were just basically line of sight. I mean, really, really short range. But the heavier ones were the 300 sets. You're able to cover greater distances with that.
What kind of range?
You get cover about 10 miles. Yeah, the heavier sets. And then you had FM frequency that would allow you to be able to talk to the flyboys. So what the United States started to do later in the war is they had a pilot who would be with a unit, and he would talk to those guys, and he had a radio that could talk to those guys. He had 2 radios. He had an enlisted guy who was a radio operator, and then he was the guy doing the talking to the pilots, and he was actually calling in air support. So they would rotate the pilots in. There was good training for them, so when they're up there, they know what life is like on the ground. And yeah, they don't have soft beds and everything. Life's a lot different down there. And so they had a AM frequencies, regular, and then FM talking to the aircraft. So they can talk on the ground and then talk to the air.
In World War II, the radios, were they Morse code?
You had the Morse code stuff like that. You had that capability, but most of it was you had landline sound-powered phones.
But wouldn't the code?
That guy, every single Corps guy learned the Morse code.